If I could have a once in a lifetime experience, it will go to the Marquesas Islands, aka French Polynesia, because Captain David Porter wrote about his experience there during the War of 1812. I know this is a very controversial topic, and scholars will definitely hate me for this, but just imagine if the United States continued Captain Porter's work nurturing the relationship with the Marquesas Islands. Just think, how would the situation with Panama be? History lesson with the Marquesas Islands. The Marquesas Islands is a group of islands in the South Pacific where European merchant vessels and later on American merchants would come and trade sandalwood with. And later on, it was a major port for the whaling industry. That was like a place where the whalers and the merchants would stop and just refit their ship. War of 1812, Captain Porter of the USS Essex, he's supposed to meet up with Commodore William Bainbridge somewhere in Brazil, but Captain Porter couldn't find Bainbridge because Porter had refit the Essex, and so he sailed out later after William Bainbridge, and so it was like a game of catch-up. Well, after Porter couldn't find William Bainbridge, he decided to go set up on his own into the Pacific without orders. Captain Porter attacked the British whaling industry, thus affecting the global economy. And after spending some time in Chile and the Galapagos Island, Captain Porter decided to go out to the Marquesas Islands and just take a respite and refit his ship. During this time, the Americans, they didn't have a friendly port to sail into in the Pacific because it was mostly dominated by European powers. And what was going on in Chile and Peru, they were in the very beginning steps of fighting for their independence. And so Captain Porter, he had to find a more neutral spot to gather his bearings. And after capturing all these British whaling ships, he had to rearrange command and keep his prisoners under control. We have now entered the Marquesas Islands, and this is where things get a little murky, or however you want to say it. But when Captain Porter arrived at the islands, there was a tribal civil war going on. He met some friendly tribes, but they were fighting their neighbors, and the friendly tribe wanted Captain Porter to help them fight the violent neighbors, the unfriendly tribe. But Captain Porter, he wasn't sure if he wanted to be involved. It took some egging on, which I will read. Porter described the psychological warfare he tried to wage against the Hapas. He had come with a force sufficiently strong to drive them from the island, and if they presumed to enter the valley of the Tays, I should send a body of men to chase them. They should cease all hostilities as long as I remain among them. The Hapas answered courageously by notifying the captain that they were going to fight him since they were sure the Americans were afraid to attack them, and had threatened so much without attempting anything. It was starting to get to the point that when Porter, he was refitting his ships because he had a whole fleet of whaling merchant vessels, that the friendly tribe, they started being less friendly to him and said, well, if you're not going to help us, we're not going to help you. And so Porter reluctantly got involved with the tribal civil war going on, and he gets a lot of criticism for doing so. However, because Captain Porter got involved with the tribal civil war, it said that the old men of the island had never been out of the valley in which they were born, but therefore they could go anywhere. Then over a decade later, in 1829, one of the lieutenants of the USS Essex, he became captain of the United States Navy vessel, the Venesis. Captain William C. Finch arrived in Nuka Hiva, and Thai Chief Gadonwa remembered Porter asking, where is Chief Poda? Where is Chief Porter? And to the people of the Nuka Hiva, the American vessels, they were still called Porter's ships. Former Congressman Henry Marie Breckinridge once defended Porter by saying, the destructions of the Taipei villages has given rise on the part of the British writers to the most scandalous abuse of common reporter and the American people, by which means they have endeavored to bring the acts of the Americans to a level of their own. The destructions of a few wigwams effected by an American officer in self-defense and for the sake of peace is to be viewed with horror, while the conduct of the British government in India, in America, and throughout the world without another motive than base rapacity is to be passed over unnoticed. While Captain Porter was at Nuka Hiva, one of Marquesas Islands, he tried claiming the land for the United States because the United States needed a friendly port in the South Pacific. And it is written in his journal, "It is hereby made known to the world that I, David Porter, Captain in the Navy of the United States of America, and now in command of the United States frigate the Essex, have, on the part of the said United States, had taken possession of the island called by the natives Nuahiva, generally known by the name of Sir Henry Martin's Island, but now called Madison's Island. That by the request and assistance of the friendly tribes residing in the valley of Tuhoe, as well as the tribes residing over the mountains, whom we have conquered and rendered tributary to our flag, I have caused the village of Madison to be built, consisting of 6 convenient houses, a rope walk, bakery, and other apparatus." I am sure he misspelled that word. "And for the protection of the name, as well as for that of the friendly natives, I have constructed a fort calculated for mounting 16 guns, whereon I have mounted 4, and called the same fort Madison. By consideration of humanity, which promises speedy civilization to a race of men who enjoy every mental and bodily endowment which nature can bestow, and which requires only art to perfect, as well as by views of policy which secures to my country a fruitful and populous island, possessing every advantage of security and supplies for vessels, in which of all others it is the most happily situated as respects climate and local possessions. I do declare that I have in the most solemn manner under the American flag displayed in Fort Madison and in the presence of numerous witnesses taken possession of said island called Madison's Island, for the use of the United States, whereof I am a citizen, and that the act of taking possession was announced by a salute of 17 guns from the artillery of Fort Madison, and returned by the shipping in the harbor, which is hereof to be called Massachusetts Bay, and that our claim to this island may not be hereof disputed, I have buried in a bottle of the foot of the flag staff in Fort Madison a copy of this instrument, together with several pieces of money, the coins of the United States. It witness whereof I have hereunto affixed my signature this 19th day of November, 1813. Signed, David Porter." Now to tie all this back to home. During the War of 1812, Captain Porter tried setting up America's first naval station in the South Pacific, and in the 1820s, when Chile, Peru, and the other countries in South America were fighting against Spain for their independence, the United States sent the U.S. Navy down to protect our interests, and the amount of complaining that there was no friendly station down in that region, because after Porter left, there was an Englishman named Wilson who lived among the Nuka Hivas because he got left behind by his British merchant vessel, and Wilson convinced the natives there that Porter's never coming back and he's going to forget you, and so the natives of the Marquesas Islands destroyed Fort Madison. Again, back to 1820s, when the United States Navy was along the coast of South America, there was drama going on in Hawaii, and instead of traveling all the way back to Washington to get things done, like court-martial and communication, they could have had this stuff done in the Marquesas Islands because it's conveniently right here in the South Pacific. Fast forward to Presidents Zachary Taylor, Ulysses Grant, possibly Theodore Roosevelt. If the United States still had the station in the Marquesas Islands, like I said in the beginning of this video, who knows how the situation would be with the Panama Canal.